And welcome back. I wanted to share a little life update as well as like where I'm at in my progression of just achieving my higher self. And let's talk about that journey for just a second. So my journey started probably 10 years ago, maybe 9.5 years ago, before my daughter was born. So like right after I got married, we got pregnant right away, and I have since been divorced, but while I was married, right? So before my first was born, I began this journey of self-improvement, and I knew that I needed to do it. I was also being told repeatedly by my partner that it needed to be done, and I'm very grateful for that, actually. Later on, I realized that that the intention was not actually pure. However, the impact was positive. So at least I'm gonna look at it that way for now. Okay, in terms of me achieving my higher self goals. Okay, so my previous partner, and then me getting pregnant for the first time in my life, and seeing that positive on the pregnancy test, just I feel like that moment in and of itself changed me forever. And I just knew I wanted to be a better person. And so I bought like a bunch of parenting books. I taught myself, good parenting techniques and good parenting habits and things like that. And then, but that also, like, learning how to be a parent doesn't just teach you how to manage other people. It actually starts with managing yourself. So it's a parenting journey is a self-improvement journey, whether you like it or not. And you are learning how to self-regulate. You're learning how to manage yourself, because when you manage yourself, you can properly manage others. When you can self-regulate, expands your capacity to make space for others and their needs of you and all those things. And I think that, after all this time, 10 years of being a parent, I've been a parent for 10 years. Bro, what? Didn't I just graduate high school? How old am I? What? Excuse me. A little bit of a crisis here. What? Okay. So I've been a parent for 10 years. And what this has taught me so far, and what it continues to teach me, and what I'm continuing to work on, is that the more that I work on myself, the better parent I will be, and the better parent that I become. So, I read a bunch of parenting books, but then when my baby came, it just was a big reflection on what work needed to be done on myself. And so then I bought a whole bunch of self-help books, and I started this whole self-help, self-improvement journey, and I went to therapy. And this was, oh my gosh, this was really grueling, intense, intentional. I would say it was full-time. It was a full-time job for me for like 7 years. I would say it was 7 years. And it took me 7 years. And, I pounded out a lot of growth in those 7 years. And if I hadn't had the opportunity to be a full-time stay-at-home mom, I don't imagine that I would have been able to pound out that amount of growth in that short of amount of time. So I don't want anybody to compare their journey to mine, because my journey is unique. I was able to be a full-time stay-at-home parent. I did not work outside of the home. I did have various entrepreneurial ventures throughout that time that allowed me to work from home and allowed me to kind of balance time with my partner at the time. So he would help take care of the kids while I would go and take a client and things like that. So I had a lot of help. I was able to balance it out. I was able to do it on the side, and but like full-time, very intentional, very, very grueling. And I was like eyeball deep in this self-improvement journey and just like achieving my highest self. And my motivation was my kids. My motivation was my family. My motivation was my marriage. My motivation was the quality, eventually it became the quality of life that I wanted, that I desired, that I was reaching for. So my initial drive was to be the best parent that I could be and to raise like good humans. Humans that wouldn't have the same traumas and issues and baggage that I have. And so I want my kids to be better than me in every possible way. And not just a little bit better than me. I want them to be like nothing like me. I want them to make me pale in comparison to how much they shine as adults. And of course, that's what every parent wants. That's what every parent's dream is, right? However, I've learned along this journey, and let's just take just a quick side note and talk about parenting for a second. Like, I cannot internalize necessarily my children's shine and successes, because therefore I would have to internalize my children's failures and darkness. And so there has to be a decent amount of humility and just realizing that my kids are their own selves, and where they shine, that's them. Where they're dark, that's them. Where they're succeeding, that's on them. Where they're failing, that's also on them. And so I'm still learning the impact that I have on them. However, so far, what I've determined is that the impact that I want to avoid is trauma. So that is essentially what my motivation is in achieving my higher self and achieving my highest self as a parent, is avoiding trauma, avoiding setbacks, avoiding the amount of work that will need to be done in their 20s and in their adolescent years, and when they become parents and they realize, oh my gosh, my mom failed me here, and now I need to do all this work to make up for where she failed and all those things. And that is a heavy burden to bear. So that was my main motivation to start my high self journey. And let me just tell you where I started. Like, I was just such a broken individual for so many reasons and in so many ways. I had anxious attachment, but now that I look back, I almost feel like I have anxious avoidant attachment. Either way, insecure attachment, and very, very much so. I was also codependent severely in all of the ways. And that one was a really hard recovery. I was recovering from some pretty intense abuse trauma, emotional, psychological abuse trauma, spiritual abuse trauma. And then I was enduring for many, many years ongoing abuse. Many forms of abuse. So that was more difficult for me to recover from because it was ongoing and continues to be ongoing in some ways. So what else? Jeez, I had eating disorders. I had mental health issues as a result of these things, like severe anxiety and depression. I was undiagnosed neurodivergent. This was a recent revelation on my own part. I have not sought out a professional for this. That's my own pride talking there, saying that I don't need it to know. I've done my own research on my own, and this is actually a field that I'm going to be studying and am studying currently, and will continue to study is what I should have said. And so I've come to realize that I have undiagnosed neurodivergence, and what that means for me, I'm not entirely sure, but I would put myself in the ADHD category, where autism and ADHD overlap. And so I'm definitely on the spectrum, and I'm also on the spectrum of ADHD. So I'm this rare, niche, unique brain type, and that actually explains my whole life. And that revelation alone was so liberating and empowering and validating, and gave me so much more of a sense of self and just understanding myself and why I was experiencing what I was experiencing all throughout my life, the bullying and the social stigmatizations and ostracizing and gosh, and the issues that I had with socializing, my social atmosphere, and also how I dealt with the stress of both everyday life, family life, and social life, and where I turned to for relief from those stresses, and the inability for me to understand my own self, the inability for me to understand why I was different and in what ways I was different and what that means, and how to manage it from there. And when you have that understanding, you just have this, it's like, okay, now I get it. Now I have a better understanding of myself and I know where to go from here. It's almost like it projects you into a direction that's like productive and progressive. So it's helpful to know those things, and just like receiving therapy from various therapists with various like insight and opinions and help. And I think I saw 4 different therapists during the last 10 years, 11 years. So and read so many books. So I had this undiagnosed psychological limitation, right? And not knowing that part of me was so damaging. Not having that understanding was so severely damaging. It damaged my self-esteem, my sense of self, my understanding of myself, my connection with myself, my connection with my experiences. And that leaves a person very confused about life, very confused about truth, about knowledge, about your own worth and what you bring to the world, and also where you fit in the world, and your purpose and your strengths and your weaknesses, and your perceived weaknesses that are actually superpowers. And what else? And just the severe depression that comes along with it, of just the lack of understanding and the confusion, and just those deep, deep sorrows associated with the human experience, leaves one with very, very dark thoughts and feelings. Very dark. Very dark. And I might need to get into that in a different video, but I admit to self-mutilation in various forms. So throughout adolescence and into mid-20s, I was a self-mutilator in various ways. And so, it took until I was 30 until I had this revelation about myself, and I realized that I am neurodivergent. And prior to that, there not only was there self-harm, but there was also just thoughts of unaliving, probably on a daily basis. So it was really dark. It was very, very dark. And I had been coined, or what do you call it? I had been titled depressed, right? Like just depressed or psychotic or emotionally unstable or crazy or whatever, all the terms, the lovely terms, titles that we all love and are usually given to us by our abusers, but also unfortunately by the bullies in society the neurotypicals and other people that lack the knowledge of neurodivergence. So that had been my experience up until my mid-20s, and then somewhat on into, around the age of 30. I'm almost 35 now. So that's where I'm coming from. That is basically where Elise has been. Previous versions of Elise included all those things. I had an eating disorder, and although I was never really underweight, I was very, very unhealthy, like severely unhealthy. And there was a time where I would say I was borderline underweight, and you could see my bones, and you could just see the sickly state in which I was at, my brain fog, and just like eating, being physically unhealthy due to like anorexia, or just malnutrition, it really messes with your emotional health in ways that I didn't expect, your psychological health in ways I didn't expect. Just being like deficient in certain nutrients and vitamins can cause crazy things like anxiety and depression and brain fog and things like that. So it's just like, it was really weird. But then I also had moments of like overeating, but also because of stress. I wasn't necessarily too much of an overeater, but I was also like holding on to a lot of inflammation and just like nasty toxins in my body. Like my body was not functioning properly due to stress. And then I developed a severe illness, and have that ever since been dealing with really nasty chronic health conditions for the last 5 years. So here I am today, and all of that is related to my journey, my self-help, my self-improvement journey, and my journey toward my higher and highest self. And although I would say I have arrived at what I had determined was my higher self before, now I have a new version of my higher self that I'm working towards. I'm really proud and excited to say that, like, I have arrived. Basically, the version of me that I had outlined previously when I was in that previous state of younger than 30 version of Elise, what I had outlined, and my avatar that I had created for envisioning, like, this is who I am, and or this is who I want to become, and this is my ideal version of myself. Like, I'm her. It took me 10 years. It was a 10-year journey. And so reading the books, doing the therapy, but mostly it was just putting into practice what I was learning and having that practice become nature, and nurturing what would become nature, and developing and recreating and rewriting and rebirthing my character. And practice makes perfect, and fake it till you make it, all those things. That's what I did. So I just essentially embodied who I wanted to become even before I felt like I was her, and I started acting like her even though I wasn't her. And I started to practice behaving like she would behave, and practiced acting and reacting like she would act and react. And I practiced speaking how she would speak, and associating with the individuals that she would associate with. And that was a shift that was hard, a little bit unexpected. I needed to change my surroundings. I needed to change my circle of influence, my inner circle, my social circle, and just who I associate with, and who I associate with the most, and who I let into the intimate details of me and my experience and my life. So making shifts there it came with a lot of trial and error. It came with a lot of mistakes. I found myself repeating history a lot, and I still do. I still do. I still find myself like, oh, I found my same adversary in a friend all over again. The same exact kind too. It's like it's always the same. There is a pattern so clearly that is like revealing to me a part of my inner child that is still broken, that still needs tending to. And so these things are revelations, and just adapting the growth mindset and seeing things as mirrors, and seeing these experiences as mirrors. And when I have an unpleasant experience, I'm not deflecting blame onto somebody else. I'm not projecting onto somebody else. I am saying, what is this telling me about myself? And I'm paying attention to what this lesson has for me to learn and to develop and to grow and to turn into, transition and transform into my highest self. So a lot of it is like intentional mentality, and just developing that intentional mentality, and just showing up every single day and being gentle with yourself when you do slip up, and realizing that in the beginning, and when I say beginning, I mean the first few years, you're going to be stumbling so much, almost so much that you're going to think that it's pointless, it's useless, you're not getting anywhere. But you have to get to a point, there has to come a point where you are so sick of your own shit, and you're so sick of dealing with the same shit and the same pain, that the fear and the pain associated with change and the unknown outweighs the pain and the fear associated with maintaining what you are currently, which is your lower self, your lowest self, even possibly. So there has to be a tipping point, and and you'll feel it. You'll feel it when it happens. There's a tipping point where you say, enough is enough. I would rather do anything else than repeat this cycle and repeat this pattern that I'm always finding myself in. I'm always in these abusive situations. Why do I always attract these people? I always have friends betray me. Why do I always have betraying friends? And why am I always in these situations with really abusive employers? Why am I always, all these things that we say? It's like, homegirl, it's because you have not changed your systems. You have not shifted, and you have not prioritized, okay, I will do whatever it takes to not repeat history. I will do whatever it takes. I will be afraid. I will be uncertain. I will walk into the dark. I'll go into that tunnel. Send me there. Put me in the tunnel of darkness with no light at the end. I don't care. Put me there. I'll go. I'll walk aimlessly for years. Don't even care. But I know that what's familiar, although it is light and I can see all the details around me, and it's there, I know how to navigate that space. I'm not lost there. I know exactly what I'm doing over there. I know the game. I know the dance. I know the song and dance. I know how to do that. I don't care. I'm never doing that again. Never, 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 never. You couldn't pay me enough. Put me in the darkness. Here I go, going to the darkness. Don't even care how long it takes. Okay, so that's what that's what happens, is like there's like this tipping point of like, literally, I will set all of this on fire. I will watch that burn to a crisp before I repeat it again. And also, there's other motivators, like for me, being a mother and saying, if I keep at this cycle, my kids will keep at this cycle. And that is terrifying. More terrifying than staying in that comforting space. So I was, I took all my chances going into the dark tunnel with no light at the end, having no roadmap, no idea what I was doing. I was breaking every cycle, all the generational trauma, escaping patriarchy, escaping abuse, escaping low-key, like occultish universe. And I had to rewrite everything with little to no knowledge of how to do so. And so I've been figuring it out along the way, and it helps to reconstruct your social circle with people that you aim to be like, with attributes that you hope to obtain. And so rebuilding your social circle actually gives you some direction, because you will find that I don't know, it's like a connect the dots experience. It's like, okay, I'm here, I met this person and they taught me this. Now I'm here and I met this person and they taught me this. And here and here and here and here and here and here. And you spend quite a few years in the tunnel. For me, it was like 4. It was like 4 years in this deep, dark tunnel, not knowing where I was, not knowing where I was going, not knowing how to do it, feeling very scared, feeling very lost, feeling very confused, feeling very frustrated. And there's like a grieving process that takes place too when you're transitioning, when you're leaving what's familiar and you're moving into unfamiliar territory. You grieve the death of your previous life. You grieve the death of the previous version of you. You grieve the death of a future that you thought you could have, that you thought you deserved, that you thought you were promised. Okay. And there's like this whole grieving process that takes place, and the grieving process of who you have to become. And unfortunately, some of it isn't very pretty for a while, for a season. Your survival mode kicks in and you kind of become a monster in some ways. You could become a dragon in others, and you are fighting demons every day for years. And this is ugly, and this is the price that you have to pay. That's the thing, it's like the price that you have to pay to achieve greatness is so unbelievably daunting and ugly and terrifying and painful and lonely. Very isolating, because so few venture into this territory, especially at the same time as you, especially within like your circle of influence, right? So a lot of the time you are venturing into this territory and you're doing it alone, and you're doing it with a lot of adversity from the people around you, not a lot of support, and some betrayals come along the way. Very unexpected betrayals from people very close to you. And, there's a lot of grueling inner experiences that happen as well. Just, you have to learn to forgive yourself, because you realize all the self-abandonment and the self-betrayal that took place throughout your whole entire life. And there's this, it's a healing journey, not only is it grueling work, like you're actually doing work and you're being intentional about your efforts and your progress, but you're also experiencing like this whole grieving, forgiving, healing, mending within your own self and your inner child and the previous version of you. Like you're making amends with her, and then you come to a place where you're grateful for her and you're thankful that she got you here, and you're even grateful for that mundane process of just repeating history over and over and over again until you reached that tipping point, because now you are so motivated to move forward in darkness and fear that you'll never repeat this again. And that is very liberating. That gives a lot of hope and enthusiasm, excitement. It generates a lot of great positive energy, which obviously projects us onto a great path forward with progress. And I had a lot of amazing individuals just pop up into my life randomly, and that's one of the beauties of transformation and transition, is like some of the best people that will exist in your life, that will make the biggest impact that you will experience the greatest love with, and respect and appreciation and friendship and sisterhood and brotherhood, whatever, you haven't even met yet. And that goes for experiences, some of the best experiences with the most profound impact haven't even happened yet with wherever you are. So that's something that I love about this process, is just realizing, like, I've had some amazing experiences and some amazing individuals that just kind of came into my life for a season, only to just kind of slide back out, and they served their purpose, and their purpose was just to encourage me along my path and remind me there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I might not see it for myself, but they see it for me. I had multiple people tell me that. You don't see the light at the end of the tunnel right now for yourself, but I see it for you. Keep moving forward, and don't give up, and know how loved you are, and know how special you are. And although I hadn't yet achieved my higher self, although I had not arrived yet, I could appreciate where I was at as well. I could appreciate where I was, and the ways that I had already changed, and the ways that I was continuing to change, and the improvement that I had seen so far, because clearly I had gotten so far into that dark tunnel that I didn't see light on either side. So clearly, when you get to the darkest part of the tunnel, you are already so far away from your previous version of yourself that you don't see that light anymore. It's not even visible. And that's where it gets really scary, because you don't see light anywhere. But that's actually great, because that means that you're moving towards the light that you want to get to. If you're still seeing that light behind you, that means that you're still holding on to a safety net back here, your comfort zone, what you've always known, that previous version of yourself. We are not repeating history. We're not going back. So when you get to that deep, dark, scary part where it's dark everywhere, is where it gets really scary. And there were many times where I fell to my knees. Like, there have been, and I still do. I have moments where I just, like, I fall down, and I'm just so distraught and discouraged about how my life got to where it is, and why am I even in this tunnel? Why is this me? Why is this my life? Why does this have to be me? Why does this have to be my life? Social media is not helpful. Social media projects or portrays ideal versions of life and people, and it's really hard for you to convince yourself that is an idealized projection. It's not actually reality, and so, like, making sacrifices to distance yourself from things and people and anything really that just distracts from your purpose and your growth, and things that will edify you, things that will uplift you, things that will encourage your progression, and just recognizing balls and chains as you pay attention to those mirrors. Whenever you, like, every experience, every interaction, every relationship, every friendship, you're just constantly looking in the mirror, and you are being revealed to yourself through everything, and using those mirrors to identify the balls and chains in your life, and just cutting those chains, setting them ablaze, literally set those ablaze, and blame that, burn them to a crisp. And it's not all going to happen at once. And don't be frustrated when you have moved 20 steps forward only to discover another ball and chain. And it's just, you get so frustrated with yourself. And also expect setbacks. Also expect digression. Expect to regress. Expect to relapse. just a couple weeks ago, I revisited 25-year-old Elise. What? That's what I said to her. I said, what you doing here? I did not invite you. You are not invited. I disinvited you from the rest of my life. Why are you here? And I had to be honest with myself. I had to be honest with myself about my experiences, my balls and chains, who I'm associating with, what's happening here that's causing me to relapse so badly, and what needs to happen. What do I need to do to avoid that from ever happening again? So here I am 10 years later, and I just experienced a major relapse. Big time relapse. So these things happen, and just giving grace and space to all of it, just realizing that this process is so messy. It's so messy, and it's not linear, and it doesn't make sense. And when you are paving a path, it feels like being lost all the time. You are almost always not certain of what you're doing and where you're going. And that's the experience. And that is probably one of the most frustrating parts, is just like never feeling like I'm sure about myself, like I'm sure about what I'm doing, or like I'm sure about where I'm going. And I only have little moments, like right now, today, the last like couple days have been my pocket of sunshine, of this realization of I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I'm right where I need to be. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I am killing it. I'm moving in the right direction. I've done the work. I love where I'm at. I love myself. I'm obsessed with my life right now. And I wouldn't want to change anything. I wouldn't want to complicate it at all. And today I feel sure. Today I feel certain. Today I feel like I have nothing but sunlight and certainty and comfort and just knowing where I am and where I'm heading. But that could change tomorrow. And that's just what happens. I have these little pockets, just little moments, small, brief moments of certainty and light and direction and that comfort of knowing that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. The rest of the time, it's just confusing, and it feels like being lost. And it's very uncertain. And a lot of it is writing only to erase and rewrite. And it's just, I'm rewriting a whole path and life for me and my kids. And I gotta head out. I'm picking up my grandma's custom-made kitchen table. And I'm also picking up some of her furniture to be placed in my home. I have a lot of Mimi all over. I have her all over, probably in every single space, every single room, every single nook and cranny of this house has Mimi. And now I get to have her custom-built kitchen table where we had meals for many, many years, most of my childhood, and her chairs that have probably seen a lot of puke from grandkids. So I'm really excited to be bringing those things into my home. Anyway, so that's my update. I didn't really get into like where I'm heading, but we'll get into that in maybe another episode of just like how I'm rewriting my new higher self and the avatar of like who I plan to become and who I am becoming now that I've arrived at previous Elise's goals. 10 years, guys. 10 years. Okay, love you. Bye.